What's up, everybody? It's me, Lone. I hope you're doing all right. We are so bloody close to the Fallout Prime Video show. It's almost out. All the episodes are releasing on the 11th of April. I cannot wait to watch this thing. And because we are in the immediate build-up to the release of the show, Prime Video keeps releasing new trailers and behind-the-scenes footage and all this new information that we need to break down in today's video. Specifically, I want to talk about their latest trailer, which is called Console to Camera. And they really do nicely break down how the show came together and the effort they're putting into keeping this authentic to Fallout and the set designs and the props and the story and all that good stuff. So I encourage that you give it a watch. It is linked in the description below. But what I want to do in today's video is give my own breakdown of what I saw in this trailer, point out some of the cool things, some of the stuff that we haven't seen before. So if you enjoyed this video and you find it helpful, please like, subscribe if you're new, with notifications if that's possible. And by the way, I'm in a rush, right? I got to get to an event tonight. So if I stop and stumble and stutter, I don't have time to edit all that stuff out, which is what I usually do. But let's get into this trailer, into this video. First off, I don't want to mention that, yes, there are a mix of old scenes and also new scenes in this video. So you're going to be seeing stuff that you've already seen before in previous trailers, but there is some new stuff sprinkled in here and there if you watch pretty carefully. So I think that's pretty cool. Now, when we talk about the vaults, there is a good emphasis on the vaults in this trailer, and I just want to say these vaults really do look good, right? They've put a lot of effort clearly into the set designs and making this stuff with actual props, with actual physical effects, and making them as authentic as possible to the vaults that we see in the games, especially in the later games when it comes to Fallout 4 and Fallout 76, right? So I think they look absolutely great. And I appreciate they've used as minimal CGI as possible. There is CGI, I've talked about this in the past, and I'll mention why in a second, but mostly it is actually a practical set. It's actual props and stuff being used, physical stuff, tangible stuff. So that is really good to see. Now, when it comes to the vaults, there are at least two different vaults in this show. There's Vault 32 and there's Vault 33. Now, Lucy, the main protagonist, the main character, comes from Vault 33, and you can see that with the jumpsuit that she wears and some of the other Vault Dwellers wear. They're all wearing Vault suits or jumpsuits from Vault 33. However, there are scenes with her and her dad, Hank, who is the Overseer, also a Vault 33. He's wearing that jumpsuit as well. There are scenes with her and her dad and some other people in Vault 32, and it seems like they discover or they enter into Vault 32 because the lights are turning on and stuff like that. And I just don't know where this sits in the timeline. Is this before she first exits Vault 33 when she's still kind of like a happy-go-lucky Vault Dweller? Or is this after she exits Vault 33? So how does that work out if she's becoming, rugged and accustomed to the wasteland? Because this feels like she's still a happy-go-lucky Vault Dweller. There's this one scene where she's looking at a Pip-Boy, and she's happy about the fact that it says she's getting married on the Pip-Boy. And then there's another scene where she walks away from her dad, seemingly at the aisle in Vault 32, as she's getting married in this wedding dress, and the dad looks upset at the fact that she's walking away. So I'm not quite sure what's going on here, but at some stage, they're in Vault 32, but they do leave Vault 33 at some point in the timeline. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'm genuinely interested about your thoughts on that story and plot. But let's move on to the Brotherhood of Steel. So the Brotherhood of Steel is getting a big focus in this show, as we all know, and we see a scene at the Brotherhood of Steel base, and it seems like there is some sort of initiation going on. So there's one scene with a bunch of candles, and then in another one of these scenes, you can see the Power Armor dude, or the guy in T60 Power Armor, burning his hand on fire. So that's seemingly part of the initiation process. And then there's another scene where I think probably they were, an initiate actually becoming a proper member in the Brotherhood of Steel, and they're getting their T60 Power Armor put on their head. So I think this is really cool. I think it's really cool to see, a Brotherhood of Steel recruit or initiate becoming an actual proper, fully fledged member of the Brotherhood of Steel. It's going to be great to see some of that lore of the Brotherhood of Steel teased out. And to be honest, I know there's some controversy around this, but I like the approach that they're taking with the Brotherhood of Steel. They are really emphasizing the fact that they are this kind of militant, quasi-religious faction in the games and now in the TV series, of course, that are obsessed with technology. They have these formal ranks. They are almost, obsessed with their own codex. This is the kind of Brotherhood of Steel that they're telling in this show. And I love the approach. I really do. I don't think it's, misrepresenting the Brotherhood of Steel. I think it's a really cool take on them. If anything, it's doubling down what certain characters in the games, like Robert House, for instance, or Mr. House, have said about the Brotherhood of Steel, that they are quasi-religious, that they're militant, that they're really obsessed with technology. So I really like this. I think this is pretty cool. Let me know what you think about it in the comments below. And then, of course, our boy Todd Howard pops up again and again and again in this video. It seems like he's been involved as heavily as he could possibly be in this show. Really good. He's in this trailer hyping it up, so that's good to see Todd in here and just being actively involved. And then Todd is really trying to hype up this show as being just another installment in the world of Fallout, right? He's already confirmed that the story in this Fallout show is canon. It is part of the official lore of the Fallout franchise. So he's pretty much trying to say, this is pretty much like another game. Of course, it's not a game. It is a TV show. But if you're talking about the official lore of the series, if you're talking about the canon of the series, this is part of Fallout. So if you're a Fallout fan, if you want to know everything of what's going on in the world and the franchise and series of Fallout, you need to watch this show and you need to know what's going on. And obviously he's saying that he wants you to get you to watch the show. It's clear what they're doing, but I think that's pretty cool. I still think it's pretty cool that this show is going to be part of the canon of Fallout. Again, it might make them be a bit more careful with taking liberties and certain creative decisions with the show because they know it actually impacts on the lore of the franchise and they don't want to piss off fans. So I think that is a good thing, right? There are some downsides, of course, but ultimately I think it's cool that this show is going to be part of the canon of the series. Plus, as well, it gives the developers room to include Easter eggs and references in the games to the show itself. And maybe we'll see some of that in Fallout 76. Maybe we'll see some of that in Fallout 5 whenever it's released. Or maybe there's another Fallout game in between that really does reference the show. Who knows the direction that they take the Fallout franchise when it comes to the games moving forward. But yeah, he's trying to hype up the show. We also see James Altman in this trailer. Now, if you don't know who James Altman is, he is an executive producer on the show, but it's because he works at ZeniMax. He's actually the son of the late Robert Altman, who was the former chair and the head, the CEO of ZeniMax before he unfortunately passed away. And he is in this trailer. He's emphasizing again that this show is really focusing on the fidelity of the Fallout franchise and trying to remain as, dedicated to the games and sticking as closely as possible to them, at the very least when it comes to set design and props and all that good stuff. So then we get a good look at the props and the set designs themselves. We see the moving Mr. Handy. They've created this stuff before. If you go to Bethesda Game Studios' offices, there is a moving Mr. Handy there. So these have been created before. Maybe it's the same one and it's been painted a different way. So it's cool to see the moving Mr. Handy. Again, there are vault suits, and I think the vault suits look really good. There's a Nuka-Cola fridge. There are vertibirds and miniguns. We again see the Super Duper Mart. That's going to be a set in the show that we see. The T-60 power armor looks so damn good, and we're going to talk about that later in this video. And there's just so many practical effects and so many physical props that have been built for this show, and I really do appreciate this, right? I keep saying this, but I'm going to emphasize it because I personally am very tired of seeing movies and shows that are so CGI heavy that it's really hard to watch sometimes. But when you look at this show, yes, they are using CGI to some extent in minimal areas, but mostly they are actually creating these sets. They are actually creating the power armor and they're doing the makeup and they have these actual props and actual set designs. This is really cool to see. And if you actually look very carefully at the trailer, you can see one scene of the vault door opening. So there is a vault door opening, but in the next scene, you see how they've used CGI, not to entirely create the scene, but to simply enhance it. You can see the subtle details on the vault door. And again, it looks like it just does in the games. So that's why I like how they've used CGI. They haven't used CGI to create the entirety of the vault door. They've just used it to enhance it, to make it look closer to the games, and to make sure that they can change those details on the fly if they need to. And I think this is a great use of CGI because it looks as real as possible, right? So I think that's cool to see. And again, we get a really good look at the T-60 power armor in this show. They do have a different take on the jetpack, right? Some people might be upset with this, but if you look at the jetpack in Fallout 4, for instance, it's a regular jetpack on your back. That's what we all expect. With the T-60 power armor in the show, it's kind of like propelled from the arms themselves. I think this looks kind of goofy and probably what you would also see in the Fallout games. Just a different variation of a jetpack in the Fallout franchise. It's not exactly like it is in Fallout 4, but this is one of those creative decisions on liberties that I don't care. I still think it looks funny and goofy, and to me, it's consistent with what they might do in the Fallout franchise. I think the T-60 power armor looks great. I've said this time and time again, that assault rifle looks so damn stupid, and that's exactly the way that it's meant to look. It looks dumb and bulky in the games as well. I love the bit where you see the Yao Guais or the Deathclaw scratch over the T60 power armor. I don't know what quite it is. Maybe it's the Yao Guai because we've seen the Yao Guai in this show. I haven't seen any mention or reference to a Deathclaw yet. So we do see the Yao Guai. That might be a scratch of the Yao Guai across the chest piece of the T60. And I like that. It feels worn. It's not too shiny and new, which is what T60 power armor or any power armor is meant to look like. You're involved in actual wars and battles and gunfights. So you need to see some damage and some scratches and some marks on these power armors to make them look authentic. So I really like that. Again, mentioning the creatures, we again see the Yao Guai. And this is what they say interestingly. So if you remember, there was this kind of mutated axolotl looking creature in the series. They specifically refer to this as a Gulper. So this is confirmation. This is actually a Gulper. I think a lot of us suspected that it might be a Gulper. But of course, it looks very different. It's a very different interpretation of the Gulper when you look at the Gulpers in, Far Harbor and Fallout 76, for instance. So it looks different, but in my opinion, it looks better. I actually really like this interpretation of the Gulper. I like when they open their mouths and you see all the little ringly things hanging out. I like the color of the Gulper as well. So I think that's cool. And also what's noteworthy, we see more ghouls in this trailer. I think there was only one that I saw, but we see another ghoul. It seems like this ghoul is either feral or is turning feral because they still have like a full set of clothes on them. It's not necessarily like a feral ghoul that you might see in Fallout 3, for instance. So maybe this ghoul is in the process of turning feral. We know that that happens in the games, of course. And then again, we see Walton Goggins in his character as both the ghoul and also Cooper Howard. I cannot believe I didn't make the connection the first time. If you watch my last video, I realized this on the spot and I felt so stupid. But yes, his character is both the ghoul and Cooper Howard. He was Cooper Howard before the Great War, and then after the Great War, he became a ghoul and turned into this ghoul character, right? And I also didn't really make the connection that Cooper Howard, Todd Howard, of course, it's a reference to Todd Howard. I think that's pretty awesome. So the story is he used to be a Hollywood icon. He used to be an actor. And in fact, he did the advertisements for Vault-Tec to promote the vaults. I think this is the coolest reference and connection that they've done with the storyline in this show, right? How cool of a plot point is that to have a ghoul that was a Hollywood actor that was recruited by Vault-Tec to advertise the vaults, and he wasn't given a spot in the vaults, right? Because he's a ghoul. He was clearly exposed to the radiation after the Great War. He clearly wasn't in a vault at the time. And that's crazy to say. That's crazy to say how he had this working relationship with Vault-Tec and he wasn't given an invite. Insane. I love it. I think that's an awesome plot point. Yeah, you actually see Cooper's character in a vault with vault dwellers and kind of like shaking their hands and doing these advertisements. So I think that's an awesome thing, right? And we see him again later in this trailer. I'll mention that in a second. But then they go back to the power armor. They talk a lot about this power armor. They built it specifically for the stunt actor in the power armor. His name is Adam Shippey, and it was built by a company called Legacy Effects from the ground up. They did a fantastic job. This is an actual power armor that this guy can walk around in. And it's not just like a green suit, or they just had the top half and not the bottom half. If you've seen some armors in movies and TV shows where they use a lot of CGI, you can see that they're partially built. Not this thing. This is built from the ground up, just like the set designs and all the other props in the show. There's even another scene where you can see a camera seemingly rigged up to the front, so there might be some cool shots of the power armor, especially as it's running or whatever, from the front down. So I think that's pretty sick. We also know there will be some scenes with the actor Aaron Moten, his name is, kind of like Iron Man, where you can see his face in the T60 power armor, and maybe with the heads-up design or the UA design, like what we see in the game. So I think that's going to be pretty cool once we actually see it. Again, we see more of the Pip-Boy design. I love the silver color. I think it looks simplistic and clean. I like how there's not so many markings and dials on this Pip-Boy. And I think it is great that we're seeing another rendition of the Pip-Boy. Literally in every Fallout game, right? We pretty much get a new rendition of the Pip-Boy. Another variation. It looks different. It's a new design. So I think it's cool how in this TV show, we're getting yet another design of the Pip-Boy that we can appreciate, and that's part of the lore of the franchise. I'm interested to see what they actually call the model of this Pip-Boy. I think that's pretty cool. And they even incorporated, let's call it a somewhat Fallout 4 style UI for this Pip-Boy, but there are absolutely some variations. There's one scene where you can see the rad meter, which looks a little bit different to the games, and there's another scene where you can see a map, which of course it's going to look different because it's an entirely different spot in the world of Fallout. It's in LA, but just the look of the map itself looks different to what a map would look like in the Pip-Boys in the games. And I want to mention this as well, the Pip-Boy dial is on the correct side. If you're wearing the Pip-Boy on your left arm, it has has to be on the right side so you can use your right hand with it. I love that's a subtle attention to detail, but they didn't get it wrong this time. I think that was perfect. And again, talking about Cooper Howard, Walton Goggins' character, there is a scene where he's kept an old tape of his time as a Hollywood actor and as a Hollywood icon, and he's playing it on a Radiation King TV. This is great, right? And again, I thought initially that this was just kind of like for the skit of them promoting the show. But no, this seems like it's an actual part of the show itself. And it might be the Ghoul's character using this as a way to remind himself of his past and his humanity. I used to be this Hollywood actor. I kept this old tape of me being in old movies and stuff like that. And he's rewatching it, even though he's a ghoul and he's been exposed to all the craziness and the evilness of the wasteland and of post-apocalyptia. Every now and again, he'll watch this thing to remind himself of his past humanity. I think that's really great. I hope we see some nice character development when it comes to this ghoul. Yet initially, he seems like, let's not call him necessarily an evil guy. He seems like, let's call him a bad guy, right? I don't know how else to describe it. But hopefully as the show goes on and maybe he becomes friends or some sort of acquaintances with Lucy, we see him develop and him watching himself in past movies of his. Maybe that's part of the process. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And then Todd Howard talks a little bit about how he's wanted to do a Fallout TV show for a long time. And a lot of other people have wanted to do a Fallout TV show or even a movie, and they've had to, of course, ask Bethesda and Todd Howard for permission. So he's had a lot of pitches over the years, lots of meetings, lots of conversations, and these, of course, have started ever since Fallout 3. And I understand that they acquired the franchise. This was the first time that Fallout had a proper first and also third-person video game. So the first proper visual representation of what an actual movie or a TV show could look like. However, everything changed when he met Jonathan Nolan, right? Because Jonathan Nolan, involved with Kilter Films, he's made stuff before, and he's now the executive producer of the show. He's actually directing the first 3 episodes. He was saying that, Todd and Jonathan Nolan was also saying that Todd and he were fans of each other's work. They really hit it off on the first phone conversation, and that's how this show actually came to fruition. So I think that's really cool. And you can tell every time Jonathan Nolan talks about Fallout and his time, especially playing Fallout 3 for the first time, you can tell that he's played these games. You can tell that he's actually a genuine fan, and he's approaching Todd, of course, to make a show, of course, to make money. That's part of the process. It's a business. But you can tell in my eyes that he's an actual fan of the franchise, and he's wanted to do this because he absolutely loved his time in Fallout 3 and potentially other Fallout games. I don't know if he said if he's played New Vegas or 4 or stuff like that, but clear he's played the games. Todd Howard got a sense of that. He pitched his vision of what Fallout could look like on the screen. Todd was happy, BGS and Bethesda were happy, and that's why we are getting this Fallout show today. So I think that's cool. And again, we got more shots of the Great War and other general set photos. One of the scenes is absolutely crazy. So you can see the kids enjoying, I think it's like a birthday celebration, and the bombs are literally dropping right in the background and they don't even notice. The only people that notice are, Cooper Howard and I think his daughter standing next to him. That is a crazy, surreal scene. I'm looking forward to seeing that in the show itself. It's going to be a weird contrast to seeing people happy and then the bombs dropping, right? This is what would have happened in the actual lore of Fallout. So it's a nice subtle touch that they have included in the TV show. And then again, they brought in the showrunners of the show. We've talked about these guys. So it's Geneva Robertson Dorette and Graham Wagner. Geneva has experience writing Captain Marvel and Tomb Raider. Graham has producer and writing credits on Silicon Valley and Portlandia and even in The Office. And because Geneva Robertson Dorette has sci-fi experience and backgrounds, and also Graham Wagner has a comedic background with a lot of the shows that he's done, it is a nice mix together. Initially, I was, let's call it, worried about how they would adapt to the world of Fallout. We know that the tone and the themes of Fallout are quite unique, so I wasn't too sure how that was going to go. But then they mentioned, I have a sci-fi background. He has a, comedic background and a comedy background. We actually think that might be a pretty cool mix for Fallout. So when they said that, it clicked in my head too. Jonathan Nolan is still directing the first 3 episodes, but they're going to be involved as showrunners. They're going to be involved as writers. So I'm really interested to see their mix and how they implement and adapt the Fallout video games. There's another scene as well where we see the rat roaches crawling all over the power armor. These rat roaches, of course, are CGI, but I think they look as real as they possibly can be. And they keep reinforcing the fact that this is just another installation of the video games. This is part of the official lore and canon of the franchise. franchise. And it's like the games, right? When they start a new video game for Fallout, they're going to a slightly different location, they're telling a new story, they have original characters and that stuff like that. So it gives them some sort of creative freedom to tell us a new story, but also fitting it within the realm of the Fallout franchise. So that is cool to see. And it's also nice to see that Todd actually did appear on set and giving people advice. He was talking to the actors, he was talking to the director and the showrunners and all that good stuff. So it's good to see Todd Howard, even Phil Spencer was there too, but it's good to see Todd Howard and also James Altman physically involved in the show. That gives me a bit more confidence that he's going to be treated as, accurately as possible when it comes to adapting this show. And again, they emphasize how much work has gone into building the world of Fallout and adding to it rather than changing it. Again, that gives me confidence, it gives me hope that this is going to be a solid, good adaptation, or possibly even an amazing adaptation of the Fallout video games. And then there's this other scene where Lucy's character is walking around and there's this sign pointing to a place called Philly. Now, initially when I saw Philly, I'm like, Philly? Like Philadelphia? That makes no sense. This is not based anywhere near Philadelphia. But Philly is actually the post-war settlement in LA where essentially Lucy first arrives at. It's the one, if you remember in that IGN article, where in the center, they have this giant pile of trash that has old tech and stuff, which is sinking into the earth. And essentially, Jonathan Nolan, it's pretty much his equivalent of Megaton in Fallout 3, because it has a nuclear bomb in the middle, but with Philly, it's this giant pile of trash which is sinking into the middle. So I think that's a really cool reference to the video games. Again, it's clear that he loves Fallout 3 and his time in the games. And then finally, Todd concludes by saying that this is the next story in the Fallout franchise. So if you want to know what happens, if you want to know more about the lore, you're going to have to watch it. I'm certainly watching it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'm sorry if this video seemed rushed. I do need to get to editing it and heading outside. But if you enjoy this video, please like, subscribe if you're new, and until next time, this has been the Lone Vault Wanderer. Please take care of yourselves, and would you kindly keep fighting the good fight.